Hey there, creepy peeps. My name is Nightmare Maven. Welcome to my channel. Let's talk about some young adult horror books. Before we get into the YA horror books though, really quick, if you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. So happy you found my channel. Hopefully you stick around for a while. For those of you that are returning, welcome back. Very happy to see you again. Okay, sometimes I get the impression that young adult horror books get the same rep as PG-13 horror movies within the online horror community, and that is the reputation that they're just not as scary as the R-rated ones. And I'm here to tell you today that that is simply not true. It's also totally subjective, but whatever. So if you are normally into like the dark, disturbing, twisted stuff, I highly recommend Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. The story follows Mary, who was convicted of manslaughter when she was only 9 years old. Now 16, Mary is in a group home. Initially, she didn't think there was a reason to set the record straight for what happened all those years ago, but she finds out she's pregnant, and now Mary wants to let everyone know the truth and find out the bits of the truth that she repressed in her memory. So find out the truth for herself as well. Every time I thought I had this book figured out, something else would get revealed that just let me know I had no idea what was going on. And I mean that in the best way. It wasn't too much or too many times where it was taking twists and turns. It was just enough to where it's like, as soon as I got comfortable, I thought I had figured out what was going on. Something else would happen and I'm like, maybe I'm wrong. Apparently also this is based on a true story. I just discovered that preparing for this video. I didn't know that reading the book, so I didn't have time to look too deeply into it, but it's apparently loosely based on a similar story where a 10-year-old girl from Maine was convicted of manslaughter in the death of an infant. Jackson took that person and made her character in the story a black girl to not only explore this super dark topic in the book, but also to explore the racial disparities in the justice system and in the public eye. Definitely check your trigger warnings and content warnings for this because there's so much heavy material going on in here. But if you're game, highly recommend this. I could not put it down. If you're more a fan of slashers, Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesar is the way to go. I hope I said his last name right. I'm really sorry if I didn't. The book follows Quinn, who's just moved to the super small town of Kettle Springs. However, the recent shutdown of the town's prosperous corn syrup factory has split Kettle Springs in two. The adults who want to hashtag make Kettle Springs great again, and the teens that just want to play pranks and have fun until they can escape that small town life. This tension is just made worse by the frightening appearances of Friendo the Clown, the old factory's mascot, who's cropping up around town and killing the teenagers. I honestly was so shocked by how gory this book was for a young adult horror. Like, if you're a gore hound, you will be so satisfied by this, I promise you. Without spoiling too much, just if you know, you know. The party scene, you know, the one that's in like every horror movie where all the teens get together and it's a big slaughter fest. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. That's like every slasher movie ever made. That scene still lives rent-free in my head. Jaw was on the floor the entire time I was reading it because I could not believe that it was a young adult book. I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't think it was overly graphic to the point where it was like disturbing or just too much, but it was just, I wasn't expecting it because it was young adult, and that's on me. I also loved the teen versus adult theme in the book because I feel like in a lot of slashers, like the teen slashers especially, the adults are largely absent. Like everybody's parents just happen to be out of town just long enough for all the teens to get slaughtered, of course. But the adults in Kettle Springs are just as terrifying as the murderous clown who's running around. It really upped the ante. It really put everybody's life in jeopardy because you didn't know like who they could trust. If you happen to pick this one up anytime soon, there's a sequel coming out in August, which I am super excited about. If the like psychological thriller, serial killer inspired by true crime stuff is more your jam, pick up Nun Shall Sleep by Ellie Marney. And would you just look at this cover? Like, I don't know what it is, but there is something about the cover that just like scratches a part of my brain in a very satisfying way. Like, does that sound crazy? I just really like looking at this book. I liked reading it too. So this book is set in the 80s and it follows two teenagers who are recruited by the FBI to interview convicted juvenile killers of cold cases. Think Mindhunter type stuff. The recruits, one a US Marshal candidate and the other survivor of a serial killer herself, becomes involved in an active case when they are sent to interview a notorious teen serial killer. I loved our two main characters, Travis and Emma, so much. I loved their chemistry. Their bond is like, it develops pretty fast given the circumstances. Kind of makes sense, and it's just a really good relationship that they have. I love the two characters. I like that there is maybe some affection between the two of them there, but it's very much like not every story has to have a romance subplot. So if you also get tired of that occasionally, you don't have to worry about it with this book. And there were some genuinely terrifying moments that had me looking over my shoulder. Everything felt necessary and was put there to move the story forward, which I really appreciated. If you like any sort of true crime stuff, or if you like stuff like Silence of the Lambs, Mindhunter, like I said, Criminal Minds, this. Now for my graphic novel lovers, especially anybody who likes graphic novels or you want to get into graphic novels and you're a big fan of folk horror specifically, I recommend Through the Woods, which is written and illustrated by Emily Carroll. So this is a very short anthology. It's just 5 different stories that obviously are all kind of centered around wooded areas, things that happen in the deep dark woods. They kind of all have like a fairy tale quality about them, but like real fairy tales, like the Grimm type of stuff where it's like actually really dark and not like Disney-fied and everything's like airy and fluffy and light. The stories in the book and the illustrations especially give me that feeling of like being around a campfire, you know, like when the light around you is kind of just forms like a little bubble of safety, and then there's the big, vast, impossibly dark woods around you. That's the feeling that this gives me. I love the way it's put together, from the color scheme to the font and like the placement of everything. Vibes. It's vibes, you know? Me trying to relate to Gen Z over here. Highly recommend this one. I feel like I don't see enough people talking about this. Just really good. And finally, my last recommendation is also graphic novel, but more for my monster fans. And that is Squad by Maggie Takuta Hall and illustrated by Lisa Sterl. Hopefully I said any of those names correctly. It's a darkly comedic story following Becca, who's a transfer student in a new school who falls in with the popular girls, who also happen to be werewolves that eat the slimy boys in their town that take advantage of vulnerable girls. I know, it sounds awesome. The story moves fast as lightning, but it manages to hold on to these rich themes of like friendships among feminine presenting people, rage, revenge gone too far. I really like this, that the story is super self-contained also. Like, it could stand alone. Obviously I would love sequels to this, but I'm like satisfied with the story told in this. Art style gives me Archie vibes in a way. It's super colorful and clean, which makes the gory moments really pop. So if you want a quick, fun, gory monster story, highly recommend this one. So that's it. Those are just some quick young adult horror book and graphic novel recommendations. I've been told that I'm really bad for people's TBR, so hopefully that made it just a little bit worse. Misery loves company, so if I have to have like 100+ books that I own that I haven't read, so do you guys. And of course, if you know of any young adult horror books or graphic novels that you really enjoyed that you would recommend to people, let us know in the comments. Like, share the misery of the TBR struggle, please. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new here. Become a Creepy Peep today. I post 2 new videos a week. I do live streams, collabs, all sorts of fun stuff. all horror related, of course. I will see you very soon with a new video. Until then, stay strange. Bye.